Hi guys, I'm Jem. I have recently finished my A-levels after all the chaos and U-turns. I did surprisingly a bit better than what I thought I would have got. So I got an A-star in psychology, and since it's September you might be in year 12 or year 13 doing the subject, wanting to know how to revise for it, wanting to get an insight into it, or you could be in another year group just like interested. In that case, you're very much ahead of the game. Welcome. So yeah, I just thought I would do a video just compiling what I thought for me were effective study revision techniques. So obviously I didn't end up actually sitting my exam, but had I done so, this is the way I probably would have used. The other thing is that I find a lot of how to revise for subject XYZ videos always talk very vaguely and generally about what you have to do, but hardly ever or very sometimes actually show you like the nitty-gritty of what it actually looks like and the whole process and everything. So that's what I'm going to try and do for this video today, and I hope it will be helpful in some way, shape or form. So the first thing that I'm going to get into, even before getting into the actual content of the syllabus, is your study schedule. When are you going to revise? And I think knowing when and structuring that is almost just as important as the content. So for this, I have a very simple planner. It says do something good today. We could all do a little bit of that. It's very simple. This is not aesthetic at all. It literally looks like this, very plain. Everything that I've done, I've highlighted with green. I would recommend having a different planner for your personal life and a different one for your academic to-do list. So this is more like an academic to-do list. So I'm going to walk you through what I have just named the Rota of 3. This is because you study around 3 to 4 or 5 topics using this rota each week, but you study them all 3 times in 1 week. No more or no less. So let's get started. So as you can see, I've listed down all the subjects that I've chosen from my specification. So the first thing that you do is you go through your specification or revision guide if subjects are laid out clearly there, and then on Monday you start with a number 1. The following day you have 2 subjects to study, the next day you have 3 subjects to study, and so on and so forth. Friday you decrease the amount of subjects you study. So I put down the endocrine system as the first thing I study on Monday. On Tuesday, 1 becomes 2, and then I introduce a new one. So in this case, I put, just as an example, psychological explanations for schizophrenia. Wednesday, this one's like your busiest day on here. 1 then becomes 2, and then 2 then becomes 3. And the new one that I've introduced is the cognitive approach. Thursday, you can see, is just as busy. So we've knocked the endocrine system off for Thursday because we've already finished that. We've done our 3 for that. It's done, boom. And then I've introduced a new one called multi-store model of memory. You'll be glad to know on Friday you can take a deep breath. It's coming down a bit. So I no longer introduce a new one on Friday. So the cognitive explanation has gone from 2 to 3, and then the psych explanations for schizophrenia is gone. And then on Saturday you end with that last one, and then you've actually got Sunday free. So the really good thing about this Rota of 3 system thingy-majig is that you can be super flexible with it. So for example, I started on Monday here, but you can actually start on Tuesday. So you can just start on Tuesday and end on Sunday, or start on Monday and end on Saturday. So yeah, it's basically you study one topic 3 times per week, only about once a day, unless you like to stagger it out at different times during the day. And then once it's done, the next part of the equation is ticking it off the syllabus. So a lot of you might have printed out the syllabus in itself and then just tick it as you go along. What I like to do is I actually copy and pasted all of the syllabus, and then I put it onto a Google Doc for me to reference, just because I can like easily update this and edit it accordingly. So basically what I would do is each time you study something and tick it off your list, you then go to the syllabus, whether it's the one you printed out or the one that you copied and pasted onto a Google Doc, and then you mark what date you did it at. So for me, I do it with emojis. It's very extra, but I find that this really helps. So I write the date that I do it, and I write the emoji, and the emoji marks the month. So I have a key at the top of the page which I have different emojis representing different months. So for example, the ones during December, January are this green check. So if I need to like briefly quickly scroll through it, I know immediately. The green stands out to me and I know immediately, okay, I did that in December, January. You might have a test late in January, so if you see that, you think, okay, I don't need to do those ones, I therefore need to do the other ones that I haven't marked. So I think this is a really good way of doing it. I think another YouTuber called Porrit, he does something very similar to this as well, where he did it on Photoshop or like on an Excel spreadsheet or something, and he just did it with colors. I use emojis, he used colors. If you want, you can just write the date and then just read the date as you go along, but again, I find that something with color makes it pop and stand out for me. That's how you kind of keep track of like the overall master list. I think the syllabus is quite good to think of as a master list. So this, your planner is like your weekly view obviously, and then the syllabus is like the overall view. So by the time you actually get to the exams and you think, oh my god, I don't actually know what to revise, all you have to do is open up that syllabus and then look at the things which have more emojis, and so therefore you then need to go do the things with less emojis. And that is my system of scheduling and keeping track of what topics you need to study. So now that you know when to study, the next thing that is very important is within those topics that you've chosen off the specification, what actual bits of those topics are you going to revise and what resources are we going to be using? This brings into the equation what I call the types of knowledge that you have to know for the exam. So for A-level psychology, at least for AQA, which was the syllabus I did, it might be similar for other syllabuses, I'm not sure, but either way, these techniques should be adaptable. In AQA, A-level psychology, you have 3 types of knowledge. You have AO1, AO2, and AO3. You probably already know this, especially if you're in year 13, but just a quick recap. AO1 is all about defining things, definitions. AO2 is applying your knowledge to a scenario that they cook up, and AO3 is evaluation. So that's probably the heftiest one in my opinion. Let's start with resources and material for AO1. In terms of locating these AO1 terms, I would recommend these AQA revision books, the green and pink haired girl, as quite good resources. Really well laid out, I think, because super simple. Everything AO1 is on this side. I've just turned to a completely random page, and then everything AO3 is on this side. For now, we're only going to worry about AO1, but basically these little key pieces of definitions and also some case studies you need to know a bit of AO1 for. Not all case studies, some case studies. That's all in the specification. And alternatively, you can also use your chunky little textbook. This one's the Lawton and Willard one. You can alternatively also use the key terms like at the side of the page here. I do have the textbook of these ones, I just have them online, so that saves like a bit of book bag space for me. You can also get the revision version of this one, the one with the mask. It's completely up to you which one you get. So we've identified our resources, we found our key terms. The apps that I would recommend most for learning vocabulary are Quizlet, which I'm sure so many of you, I would be very surprised if you hadn't heard of it. And the other one is called Anki, which is another flashcard app that I'll talk through in a moment. So for Quizlet, I'd recommend probably doing like folders of the different big like modules. I think that's what they're called, module topics. So for example, memory, attachment, social influence would be separate folders, and then within those folders you'd like have a few subsets. Just use that to type the definitions in, and that's something that you can access. The other flashcard app that I would quite recommend is called Anki. You can download it for free. There's like a premium version, but I'm not too sure what it has more of. So I'm just going to talk about the free version on here. It works pretty much the same as Quizlet, except it's a lot more advanced. So when you go in to type in your cards and things, it will ask you about your knowledge of the subject, whether it's good, like bad, or like really good, something like that. And it's really good because then after you mark your progress on the flashcards, the cards will show up later on based off of like frequency of how much you know things, so it's gonna give you the ones that you say you don't know as well, and so hopefully that will maximize your memorization and learning. The other good thing about Anki, and why I prefer it a little bit more to Quizlet, is that you don't actually have to type the thing in. So for Quizlet, I think is actually better for like one-on-one vocab, so like for example for a language, but then if you don't get the exact wording right, it usually marks you wrong. So with Anki, you don't actually have to type anything in. You see the flashcard and you can say it out loud if you're at home and not in the library or anything, or you can say it in your head. And I think probably saying it in your head will probably suffice, and if you can do that, you click good, bad, whatever, and then you move on to the next card, and it literally saves like all that typing time. So that's why I think it's a bit more efficient in a sense. That's how I learned AO1 terms. Obviously we can't forget just doing it the good old flashcard way, and that will work great too for your AO1 terms. So the next type of knowledge that you need to know for your exam is called AO2. AO2, as I said earlier, is all about application and applying basically your AO1 definitions and stuff like that and theories to a real life scenario. So for example, this could be like, the son is having problem XYZ in his life, apply cognitive behavioral therapy from psychopathology. That's AO2. So that requires you to know like the definition of what obviously cognitive behavioral therapy is and how it works, which is, you know, that AO1 stuff we just did, and then applying it. I think these questions are probably, like relatively speaking, nicer and my favorite, because all the information you need is like already there in like, you know, the character, the kind of story they give you, and then after that it's up to you to just apply those AO1 terms. So in terms of locating AO2 questions, going back to this, literally in every double spread page, over here in yellow, you gotta love that face, you have a big thing that says apply it, and it literally does these for every single one of the topics. The other way to locate them is you can go through past papers, and rather than doing like the whole past paper at once, you can actually like just do the AO2 of that paper if you're focusing only on AO2, and then tick that off and then do the rest of like the other questions of the past paper a different day. That's another way to do it. Coming back to the textbook as well, at the end of the assessment check, we've got a AO2 right there. So yeah, it's just a matter of like sorting through the information and doing the stuff that you want to do. A little note that I wanted to add is that when you're doing your planner, so going back to the study schedule, not only can you just put like the topic that you're revising, but you can also put whether you're doing the AO1, AO2 or AO3 of that topic. So therefore you can not only focus on the topic, but the type of knowledge for that topic. So for example, I've done the AO1 of the endocrine system on Monday. So tomorrow I'm going to do the AO2, and on the third day I could do the AO3. This again is like very extra. You don't have to like break it down that much, but you know what, it can only be quite effective. Just because I remember at school, some people like hardcore revising AO1 terms, for example, and then suddenly, for example, they get a question and it's like, it's sort of what they revised, but then it's a 16 marker, and 16 markers are predominantly AO3, so it's like, well, I did do the frustration aggression hypothesis, but I just know the definitions of it, but I don't actually know the case studies. And that's why it's so important to make sure that you holistically study all of the AO1, 2 and 3. So therefore you basically eliminate all the chances that you could miss something out and not do an exam question. Okay, so we've done AO1, AO2, now we're moving on to AO3. AO3 is the big one, it's the monster, it's the heaviest one, the most amount of memorization that you will have to do for psychology exams, and it's all about evaluation and case studies and almost kind of like critical thinking. The AO3 is all here at the side. So a quick thing just so you know is that you don't have to know every single one of these case studies. So like on here, often they'll actually have separate case studies in these different columns, and you don't need to know all of them. I would say maybe like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different rows. I would say maybe like 3 to 4 possibly just 3 rows for each of the topics. Yeah, just bear that in mind. You don't need to know it all, especially for year 2 when your teacher picks your optional topics. Try and pick case studies to remember that you find interesting as well as being relevant, or if it's like a researcher has a bit of a funny name and you know that that name's going to stick to your head and you're not going to forget it, choose that one. Obviously in year 1 you have like compulsory case studies like Zimbardo and Milgram, for example, so of course you have to know those ones. But for year 2 the flexibility can be a bit nice in the sense that you can just choose what you want, but with that flexibility you can also lose track of the ones that you're trying to remember. So in your revision books, just mark the ones that you're going to use, highlight them, so then you know for the rest of that year that's the one that you're going to focus on and not the whole kind of amalgamation of them. AO3 is predominantly used in 16 markers. Your teacher has probably made you do essay plans. These are quite good. You might know this, you might not, but a way that I would recommend for structuring them are these burger thingamajigs. So these are available on the website Tutor2U. I was actually given these by my teacher, so I don't know whether they're free or not, but if they're not free then try and get your department to get them because they are genuinely quite good just for structuring. It's nothing rocket science, it's literally just ensuring you've got your point, evidence, counter argument, conclusion for every single paragraph that you write, with the exception of like an intro. You've got your essay plan. It was probably going to be written in A4 paper a bit like this. A quick thing, my essay plans, some of them I wrote like ages ago where I didn't use that hamburger bun structure, so they're not very well structured. So I ended up rewriting a few of them, but that's perfectly fine. You might sense an update is needed for some of your essay plans. The next thing, in addition to having this A4 piece of paper, is to put this A4 piece of paper on a condensed medium-sized flashcard. So basically for this flashcard, this is the frustration aggression hypothesis, clearly labeled paragraph 1, 2. Paragraph 2 includes a counter argument there, paragraph 3 and paragraph 4. So these are roughly in the hamburger structure. You don't have to strictly follow that, but that is what I would recommend. I've also, as you notice in orange here, put little markings. So EP means essay plan. So all this means is that if, for example, you don't have enough space, it basically prompts me. For example, let's say I forget the definition of this hypothesis. I can go, okay, it says EP there, I'm gonna go to my essay plan and then I'm gonna find what I wrote there. So it's literally all about cross-referencing. I mean, you can write the whole thing down, but if I did, you can already see it's like so crowded here. So if I wrote that down, it would just be even more crazy. So that's why I like to reference things. Another example is here where I talk about a random definition and then I write page 190. So if I forget like the context of what I wrote, then I can go to page 190 of this book and find it again. So that's the good thing about these. Once you've made these little condensed flashcards and you take them off your little planners, when you come to revise in the future, you're not going to look at this. You're only going to look at this for a few minutes, and then afterwards you're going to try and write that essay plan out from scratch. You can type this or write this. Typing saves a lot of time, so unless like you really need to practice your writing for the exam, you can actually type it out just to save you more time. I think UnJaded Jade did a video of this and she called it the blurt technique, if I remember correctly. I'll link it down below. That is basically what it is, because at the end of the day you are going to have to regurgitate a 16 marker, and the most annoying part is that you don't know what 16 marker it's going to be. So that's why I find this flashcard and essay method a good way of doing it, and then the burgers to structure it. What you can also do is, if you haven't already got an essay plan, you can actually do the condensed flashcard first and then have like a formally written out one, or if you prefer you can write it out on A4 first and then condense it from there. It's completely up to you, whatever works for you. And then when you do the blurt technique, this is a study method that's actually called retrieval, and that basically forces your brain to mentally get the information out, which improves recall, because at the end of the day that is what you're gonna have to do at the exam. So that's why it's a good idea to start practicing it now. So that's it for the types of knowledge you have to know for your exam. We went through AO1, AO2 and AO3. Another random thing that I like to bring up is I would really recommend the Tutor2U research methods booklet. It's got everything you need to know in terms of research methods. They are also available in these booklets, but I find that the Tutor2U one, in my opinion, was the best for learning research methods. So I think that's available on their website. we're moving on towards the end of this video now. I'm going to talk quickly about how to store your materials. So I would recommend storing your study materials, so the essay plans, the flashcards and whatnot you make, into different folders based off of the papers that you're going to take at the end of the year. So for AQA Psychology, at least 2020, 2021, the papers are split into three. You've got paper 1, which is all your year 1 topics, paper 2, which is biopsychology and approaches, remember that one, and then paper 3, which is all your optional modules that have been chosen for you in year 2. So this one over here is my paper 3 one. Yeah, so I've just got my optional topics, which were aggression, schizophrenia and relationships, just in here. And then in each one I've got the essay plan and the little condensed flashcard that I was talking about, and I keep those in a poly pocket or clear file pocket. So yeah, try and get different colors as well. Always an advocate for colors here. Maybe have like a different color for your year 1 folder and then have a different color for your paper 2 stuff. I would personally recommend keeping past papers in like a completely separate folder again, and then again separating it into paper 1, 2 and 3. Or you can stick them into the folders that you already have, depends on how much space you have. Just keeps it nice and organized. If you're quite a keen bean or just need to get even more revision in, I would recommend doing a past paper on top of that rota system that you did, like at the end of the week or something. Just adding it in and then marking it with the mark scheme after. Past papers I think are all available on the AQA website or whatever exam board you do. If not, there will be many other websites that provide for them. Just make sure that you know the syllabus that you're doing, because I've met some people who didn't even realize which syllabus they were taking for which subject until the end of the year, which was a bit like just make sure that you're on top of it and you know what's going on. So yeah, that is the end of this video. I covered schedule, when to revise, what to revise, the types of knowledge, and a little bit of organization, which is just sorting your 3 different papers into 3 different folders, and then when each one gets full, just having like a part 2, part 3 of that folder. I hope that's been helpful. Thanks for coming this far and watching this video. Do feel free to adapt any of these techniques to a way that suits you, because at the end of the day that is what's going to work best. And yeah, I wish you luck with your exams, whether you're in year 12, 13 or a different year group. Let me know below if you would potentially want like another how to revise video, because I was thinking of doing one for Spanish or for languages in general, which is quite different, I would say, from this. So if you take a language and you're keen to see that, let me know. If not, leave any suggestions of any A-level related videos you want and I will have a look and I may do them. But yeah, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you soon. Bye!